everyone, welcome back to the workshop. I just want to show you guys around another project we got in. So this right here is actually an old fire engine. This was a 1918 fire engine, Leyland London Fire Brigade, and I'll actually be remaking the whole bonnet there, trimming all hinges, but this is actually going to be used as a guide. So this one is a 1918. I'll actually be making a 1917. There isn't a great deal of difference between them, and the reason I'm using this one is because the 1917 did not stand the test of time, and I can show you that with the center hinge here as a reference of what to go off of. As you can see, hasn't held up too well. So I'm going to be using the 1918. The only difference between the two really is that this later model actually has the bead that goes around the louvers, and the earlier model has one extra louver in between the same spacing of the handles on the side here. As you can see, this actually holds a lot of brass work on here, and all the rivets on there are brass too. So this is actually a 1/2 inch, half round bar, which is an absolute nightmare to get hold of. I'm speaking to metal suppliers at the moment who are actually on the hunt for me to find the right material for it. Again, I really want it to be as close to this as I can possibly get. I wouldn't want to go down, I wouldn't like the radius to change. I want it to look exactly the same because this brassware also continues on the rest of the vehicle. As you can see, the rest of the vehicle isn't here. I've only got the bonnet and the wings. That is actually at a carpenter's or a woodworking coach builder elsewhere, and this guy does a cracking job. He's done a few of them over time. He's even done this guy's previous one. But I'm taking hold of the metalwork. We're going to be taking this. I'm going to show you all the processes of what I'm going to have to go through. Even going to have to make some tooling for it. As you can see, I've already made the buck, so this is a good reference on how it's all going to sit on there. Length, distances, radiuses, even to form the brassware around that. One of the things we may have to do is do a 3D scan of some of the hardware. So the actual handles here, you can probably imagine you can't just go around to your local DIY shop and pick up a set of those. Same with the bonnet tie downs, not really much you can find to replicate those. So may end up doing a 3D scan to then make a 3D model. Then once that's printed out, we can then send that off to the casters, and then they can put that and then make a casting of that to then put onto here. So again, only going to be doing some very simple metalwork on this, but with the louvers, again, have to make the tooling for that because I don't have any tooling that is as big as this. So, especially for this job, I'll be making the tooling and then also be getting hold of some hinges that are the same. Just because you can't really get anything like this as well. Having to match up for all the rivets, it has to be a blank hinge. Same for the center, that's a twin hinge, so not really sure what to do there. I'll have to figure that out. A lot of little challenging tasks to go through on this, but it'll be good to get the process rolling. Going to design this actually in CAD, so it can replicate it both sides, less chance for any inconsistencies, even when it comes down to the spacing of the rivets down the side. I'm not sure if you can see here, but we've actually got three rivets in line, then it staggers to the other side of the hinge to be another 3, vice versa, all the way down to the end. And once that is all laser cut, then it means I can set it up as a guide to then go onto the brass hinge underneath. Finding the right brass hinge is going to be a little bit challenged, but again, it's getting the process there. And I really want to make this as period correct as possible. I don't want to be chucking any modern tacky stuff that's actually only just a brass plating on there or something. It would just ruin it. So the attention to detail this guy goes into, it's great to actually be allowed to really copy that with him. To not have to cut corners and get every little detail right. Even there's little tapers on the brassware there, on the trim, even the little hooks on the inside. Not a great deal of work that actually has to go into the wings here. He's already managed to get hold of the outer section of the wing. As you see, it wraps around. There's actually a support underneath that. Just need to wheel up this inner edge here to tie into remake a whole wing. Same for the other side. But yeah, that is pretty much all the work that needs to go into it. So, you know, being on the chassis jig is a bit deceiving, but it's fairly straightforward, but also being able to have that attention to detail, like I said, it should be interesting. And it'd be nice to show you guys what kind of work goes into something like this. So I think all we can do now is get to work. As if by magic, we have all the laser cut pieces. So we have all the right angle edges that will be underneath when they're folded. As you can see, we have all the rivet holes already in place, and they will line up with the center bracing strip there. And if you get a close look over here, you'll actually see all the individual spacing for the top section, and then also the spacing for the center section. So all those pieces will then be tied onto the hinges. Still waiting for the hinges to turn up, but I know they are blanks. We did manage to get hold of some. And still actually on the hunt for that half round bar. So fingers crossed we do end up getting that. But I think it's time to start putting some louvers into these, put the folds in where they need to go, and see where all the pieces guide together. Let's go. As you can see, I've got the brass centerpiece now. This actually needs to have the holes transferred into it for the rivets. The lower section here is what I'm going to use as a template. I'm going to lay it over and just center punch along, so that then the rivets can be passed down through the top, through the hinges, and then into the lower support section of the bonnet. And then that could basically start joining the two hinges together, as well as the two top sections, and then again repeat the kind of process with the hinges, with the side panels, which will be louvered. And then, yeah, we can start putting this piece together. Right now, I've got the brass center section also laying on top of the center hinges. I've got this actually clamped down right now because I'm going to be using these as a reference to then drill the holes for the rivets. It's resting on top of a bit of wood, so I can drill straight through. and then I can put these little plecos in there to hold the rest of it down. So yeah, commence more drilling. I'm just setting up the front and the backstop on the Pels machine here. So the idea behind that is with the backstop, it means when it's on this track gear here, it means it can go all the way back, and then when it stops, that'll reach the front end of the louver. And then when it hits the front stop, then it hits the back end of the louver. By having these tracks on here, it means I can actually lock out the Y and the X axis. The back edge of it's nice and clean. Hasn't distorted. Has a little bit, but a few little tweaks that'll straighten up nicely. As you can see, I have now got both sides made up through the power hammer there. All the louvers are in place, ready to go on really. But now I'm going to move on to the top sections. So these two top sections will actually have to have these edges rolled over all the way to the back. The most it tapers off towards the front, but by a little bit of shape in there. Actually going to do this in the English wheel. As you can see, doesn't really have any curve to it. It's only across this singular plane. all the way front to back. But these don't have any shape in them, and what I mean by that is we don't have to shrink or stretch them. We only have to curve them in one dimension as such. So they're only moving across one plane. Whereas if I was adding shape, it means I'd have to raise the surface up by adding more crown, or even shrinking to reduce the outer diameter of some sort. But this is just basically going to be form going into there. So with the form, it basically, I'll just be manipulating the metal in a singular direction to sit over the buck. So I'll show you how to do that now. So I've just passed the top panels through the English wheel there. As you can see, good bit of form there. Nice and straight all the way down. So laying them up on the buck, now that I've got the bonnet off, we can really start to see how these are going to land on there. I'm pretty happy with that, and I think might be about time to get the rest of the bits on there. And after a little bit of searching, the metal suppliers have managed to get hold of what I am hoping is the half-round brass bar. Just looking through a little tear in there. So I'll cut it open and see what's what. I'm actually just going to try and bend this cold, just because when brass gets heat into it, it does tend to work harden. Just try and tweak a bit more by hand. As you see, it's got that spring back. Try and bounce that down. I think I'll do the rest by hand. Off of this, just bend it around the knee and be pretty much there. I'm now moving on to the brass side trims, and I've got to drill into the back side of these to then pass the rivets through to then hammer them flat and then dress them off this side. But the best thing to do is drill through the back, because obviously on this curve face it's going to tend to wander. So what I've got here is a little bit of wood I've just kind of channeled out that sits that in there just above flush. So I can put this, it's the right way around, yep, put this under the panel, lining up the holes that we've already got there. Let's bring it up to the edge, make it all square. And then I can just clamp it down to the table. A little bit of tweaking. And she is ready to go. Okay, so here we have one fire engine bonnet. As you have seen, it takes a lot of work to get it to this stage, even making the louver tools, wheeling up the panels, even down to bending the brass work on there. So it is basically ready for paint now, and just going to have that discussion with the owner, and basically whether he wants it painted now or once he's painting the rest of the fire engine so he can paint them at the same time. Got all the holes drilled out, ready to accept the right size rivets, all the brassware. It's all clecoed in place, so that basically shows how it will be sitting, and it gives a good reference to the clecos, especially when they're not under tension. So it's not trying to force it in a direction and putting strain on where the panel would be. As you can also see, I've got the new wing inners here, so the insides of them. Actually willed those up on the English wheel and done a bit of shrinking on the power hammer with the thumbnail dies. I didn't actually capture that footage, but I'm sure there'll be another time where I'll show you how that's done. Really happy with how this has turned out. Still got to wait on the brass handles and the bonnet tie downs. Going to be chasing those really. I can't really do anything about those. I don't want to drill the holes until I actually have those to put in place. But yeah, I think now is a good stopping point to have the conversation with the customer, the next few steps to go down. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed watching it.